Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Woody Comic Book Roundup. We've covered we've covered a few of this week's Marvel books, namely everything on the X side of things, as well as Star Wars and Alien. And now we move on to other areas of the Marvel Universe, starting with Amazing Spider-Man number 88, part of Spider-Man Beyond. So where we left off, let's see. Beyond CEO Maxine Danger basically opted to use some of Beyond's technology to make Spider-Man Ben Reilly more compliant, while also threatening the therapist they brought in, Dr. Kafka, by pointing out the fact that she's a clone, and so rights are she's in a gray area when it comes to rights, sadly. However, Ben's girlfriend Janine managed to take Marcus prisoner in an effort to escape with the mysterious drive that Dr. Octopus was after. We begin in the aftermath of this with Maxine reassuring Ben that they'll find Janine. And but before that, questioning Marcus about what happened. And explaining to the board what's happened. Maxine has also shown a new product that that Beyond is working on, which is utilizing the sin, basically a substance made of the sins of Norman Osborn from Nick Spencer's Sin Eater storyline back during his run on Amazing Spider-Man. And we get a look at this project, apparently referred to as being Goblin Queen. At the Daily Bugle, Mary Jane brings Janine to speak with reporter Glory Grant. But Spider-Man is sent out to go after a potential new villain that's been spotted. And Maxine explains to Marcus the entirety of the plan. That basically asking if Marcus knows who a man named Jason Halifax is. She explains that Halifax was the CEO of a big oil company, built a super mansion in Broxton, Oklahoma. There was a rumor that some very not funny things were going on in that mansion. There were bodies. It was taped off. The oil company prepared a statement. And then Norman Osborn attacked Asgard a mile and a half from the mansion. Essentially threw a tank at Thor, blah blah, lightning, the void, and the Halifax house was wiped off the face of the earth. What happened to the bodies? How'd they get there? Who cared? Nobody, because the Sentry and Thor. Maxine goes on to explain that the superhero thing is fun. They get to give back to the community, corporate charity, magazine covers, pats on the back, but they're beyond. They sell products. And the superhero division is a Beyond branded meta product that controls the news cycle and can make people, buildings, hopefully continents, eventually disappear. No questions asked. for anyone who needs it and can pay, of course. Having it laying around for situations like, the stolen drive doesn't hurt either. But Marcus points out that with what Maxine's talking about, superheroes wouldn't be enough. You need villains too. And the Goblin Queen is unleashed. Her first act, slaughtering the research team that made her. But she goes off to the Daily Bugle, while after Janine has explained to Glory Grant everything she's been going through. Of course, while Glory's outside, basically, checking to make sure they can actually run the story, Janine is making sure there are no bugs in the office. But then the Goblin Queen attacks. And when Maxine leaves Marcus, she she's informed that the Goblin Queen has made it to the Bugle, and it says that Spider-Man be sent in. But Spidey shows up at the Bugle, and when Goblin Queen sees him, she simply says, "Ben," and Ben realizes he knows the Goblin Queen. But an upgrade when it comes to Goblin gear is apparently Goblin Queen's glider can separate into separate gliders. One of which is sent to use one half of which is sent out to go after Ben, while the Goblin Queen goes after Janine and the Drive. Before she can get to Janine, however, Ben grabs her with a web line, pulls her away, and Janine drops the Drive, which Goblin Queen promptly crushes. But once Janine's safe, Ben after immobilizing Goblin Queen, Ben obviously gets Janine out. MJ points out that Goblin Queen's getting up, and Ben simply says that the way he sees it, that's not their problem, which does definitely rankle Maxine, and he swings away with Janine, leaving MJ with the Goblin Queen. And that is where the issue ends. I've honestly been looking forward to this issue as soon as they announced it. They showed off the artwork and it was announced. The issue was announced, so yeah, it was fun. I've been a huge fan of the Beyond arc, and I'm not looking forward to its coming end soon. But yeah, it's been a fun run. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Savage Spider-Man #1. Now, okay, Savage Spider-Man is a follow-up to the recent Non-Stop Spider-Man miniseries, and to be fair, had I known that, I likely wouldn't have picked this one up. So, the rundown of Non-Stop Spider-Man. A cabal named the Immaculatum invented a drug called A+, that, after a brief period of improved performance, saps the Saker's intelligence. The Immaculatum's leader, a man named WGH, injected Spider-Man with A+, and dropped him on a desert island with their Zemo. A+ has also had an interesting reaction to Spider-Man's physiology, and so He's now more human man-spider hybrid. So he's on the island. He goes after a boar, seemingly eats it. Zemo is dealing with some other unfortunates on the island, though. Spider-Man deals with some of the other creatures before coming upon Zemo, and initially trying to kill Zemo, but Zemo tries to get his attention, explaining, "Hey, you know, we should work together, so maybe we can get off this friggin' island." There's a flashback about somehow Spider-Man has someone else's memories. A young woman named Doralis, who was taken in by WGH. But the Immaculatum are discussing carving up the world. Part of their plan includes a massive amount of depopulation in an attempt to, well, save the world. It appears to me that the Immaculatum is along the lines of eco-fascists, kind of. I will say, one of their guys looks a lot like Exodus from X-Men. But if it was Exodus, I imagine they would have pointed out that it's Exodus. As the book does not, I'm going to assume that it isn't. But they've figured out who's going to be ruling which part of what parts of the world. It suggested that they destroy the Isle of the Damned, the island which Spider-Man and Zemo are on, but it's decided that instead the island will be a cooperative zone. WGH explains that when the purge is complete, there will be confusion. And he believes that the Isle of the Damned, that they can use the Isle of the Damned to gently shock the confusion out of any who would oppose them. It's also suggested that you'll be sent on a widely televised vacation, which is referred to as the Zemo package. WGH agrees, and he proposed that the island of the Damned remained in Tapuya's care. It's seconded. The motion passes. It suggested that there be a division of resources for containment. It's agreed upon. That's also agreed upon. But now they have to work on completing preparations for taking the operation global, which seems to involve a giant brain with someone hooked up to it as well. But Spidey and Zemo on the Isle of the Damned are somewhat working together, but Spidey's developed some new abilities with the A+, and has kind of vomits some stuff out of the eyes of his his foes on the Isle of the Damned. And they end up under his thrall, giving him a small army. Which is where the issue ends. I probably would have enjoyed this more if I'd read Untitled Spider-Man. I'm not even going to deny that. It's interesting, I'll give it that, but yeah. To be fair, seeing the cover image advertised in Marvel books from the past few weeks also kind of piqued my interest, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Fantastic Four: Reckoning War Alpha. Okay, so Reckoning War is described by writer Dan Slott as being kind of the culmination of everything, pretty much all of his work from Marvel. I imagine that his Spider-Man run's not going to have a lot to do with it, nor will his run on Ren and Stimpy. But you never know, right? But So we begin. Nick Fury is watching an arms deal happen on the planet New Mord, homeworld of the Brotherhood of the Badoon. He returns to the blue area of the moon, tells the Watcher what he observed, and explains that someone's going around and leveling up warlike races everywhere. The Badoon, the Maranis, Zinrix, Xantha, all of them. The Watcher explains that the weapons are from the First War. It is Watcher technology. But Fury explains that, yeah, you're right, it is. But the people of this planet ain't Watchers. They call themselves the Reckoning. And so, the Watcher Uatu summons forth his fellow Watchers. Shortly after this, a Badoon ship destroys the moon. Chunks of the moon begin falling on New York City. Spiderman, the Avengers, the X-Men are all basically following the lead of the FF. Mr. Fantastic is coordinating with both Shuri and Wakanda, as well as Agent Brand at Sword. Brand passes along the working theory that it's the first strike in an alien invasion of Earth, a move to soften the Earth up. Reed thinks it was a little over the top, but until a warning klaxon comes off stating that alien craft is entering the atmosphere. And the Badoon begin their strike. Things trying to make sure that Alicia, as well as their Kree and Skrull adopted children are get safely into the Baxter building. But their son, Joven, ends up jumping into the fray to help his father. But once things have calmed down briefly, Ben tells him that, he appreciates what Joe did, even though Ben doesn't want Joe fighting anymore. But Ben says he's going to fight twice as hard just so that Joe can live in a world where he won't have to fight. But the Badoon are a large-scale invasion. The New Warriors and the Champions are working together to take on the Badoon. Jack of Hearts and She-Hulk are, but Justice's Love and Peace of the TVA, yes, Temporal Variance Authority, from Loki, show up. Apparently, but She-Hulk can see them. It's explained that back in Dan Slott's She-Hulk run, Justice Love brought She-Hulk to this point in the future, to one of the possible key points in her timeline. She's been time looped and is now chronically sensitive. But in overspace, Eternity appears to be injured. Where he meets with the Griever, who explains what's happened, and but the Surfer believes that maybe there's something he can do to save Eternity, and so he'll try. He just hopes that the cure he's seeking is not worse than the disease. But in Latveria, Doombots, as well as Victorious and Doom, are dealing with the invasion, but Doom explains he must leave. He must save the fabric of reality, after all. In space, the FF are going to figure out what's going on. The lunar lander, as well as the flag, the old glory flag that was planted in the moon, or the moon landing, are seen floating about. But Fury takes a shot at the FF. He's brought aboard their ship, however. He's got the Watcher drive. Explains what's been going on at the FF. Mr. Fantastic utilizes it to figure out what's going on, and we learn the history of the First War. So it's explained. The question, or the query, the Encyclopedia Universum. Who are the Reckoning? Explained there was a time when the rest of the universe was still so young, and yet the Watchers had advanced before all others. They could transform their very bodies into light and travel anywhere they wished in the blink of an eye. Wherever they went, they were called the Luminous. They were not Watchers then. How could they be when there was so much to see and do? They believed themselves to be kind and generous, and they wished for others to share in their bounty. Primitives would look upon us, and we would say unto them, "We come bearing gifts." And in their hubris, they would take great delight as magnificent civilizations rose up in their wake. Such a pearl among the stars was the planet Persilius. It was to be the first of many worlds they would elevate, or so they thought. But without the Watchers' evolved guidance, the Persilicans found other uses for their technology, uses that suited their true savage natures. They decided to repurpose what had been meant for majesty, for might. Take the gifts the Watchers had given them, and use them to plunder the gifts that they had given others. What the Persilicans could not conquer or consume, they destroyed. The rest of the universe, they were no longer the Persilicans, they were the Reckoning. Then there came a day when every other civilization united against them, one final stand against an unstoppable force, and on that day an ultimate weapon of last resort was deployed on the battlefield. That was the day of reckoning, and the Watchers watched. They watched as cosmic energies blossomed outward. They watched as toxic fallout spread across the known worlds. They watched as cities crumbled, civilizations fell, and men, women, and children burned. Everything the wave touched turned to ash. Planets, stars, galaxies, even the dark void of space. 9/10 of the universe was undone before them. Before the Luminous. The Watchers were forced to intercede. Using all their power combined, they erected a great barrier around the remainder of the universe. The toxic fallout was contained beyond it, which ensured that the mighty kingdom, lands, and people of the Reckoning would never be seen again. For no life could possibly exist among those Spartan barons that remained. They knew this to be true. And with the same conviction, they knew that all this had come to pass as a result of their folly, their arrogance, and their best intentions. To ensure that this would never happen again, they all took a sacred vow to watch and never interfere with others, with only one possible exception: this moment now. But Reed takes the drive off and explains he's Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and he knows everything. In the Barrens, it's explained that there are places the Watchers do not look. They can, but they choose not to, out of shame. On what was Basilicus, Wrath of the Reckoning declares that he used to bring the great gift of death. And that is where the issue ends. For the duration of this story, we will be following Fantastic Four. To be fair, this is largely because of Dan Slott kind of hyping up this story on Twitter. So, curiosity got the better of me. It's explained that he was inspired by an old issue of Marvel Team Up, or Marvel 2-in-1, and he could say who the villains in the issue were, but that would give away the big surprise. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Daredevil, One Without Fear, number 2. Where we left off, apparently Kraven the Hunter had been pointed towards Elektra, who was on a mission to retrieve her file from the file that Wilson Fisk has on her, in the hopes of preventing certain bits of information being learned by her lover, Matt Murdock. The issue goes on to basically confirm that yes, Matt Murdock truly is her greatest weakness. This was something that was theorized actually during the Wolverine Enemy of the State storyline by Mark Miller. Basically, word got out that the Gorgon was going to go after Daredevil. However, Shield, or at least Wolverine, realized it was a ruse to draw out Elektra. But Kraven and Elektra fight it out. During the fight, it's explained that basically the fact that her first meeting with Daredevil was actually a first attempt at recruiting him into the Hand. Well, she's already told him that. But she has to deal with a couple of NYPD officers. There are various flashbacks to her past, including yet another run-in with her mentor from the Hand, Aka. But a Goldie, an ally of hers, seems to now be a target of Kraven's, and so Elektra goes to investigate. Goldie is gone. However, some of the Thunderbolts officers show up, but rather than kill him, she simply escapes, knowing where to find Kraven, back at Columbia University. The lawyer from earlier, though. But Elektra suggests that her and Kraven take the fight somewhere else because the city is too dangerous for superpowered people right now. However, Kraven states that on the contrary, he's never felt safer, as Kraven has been recruited by Fisk into the Thunderbolts. And that is where the issue ends. Good issue. To be fair, I turned out Goldie was actually the lawyer that she spoke with in the first issue. I feel like kind of an idiot now. I didn't even remember that from my initial read-through. But anyway, moving on to our next book, which is also a Devil's Reign tie-in. We've got Spider-Woman number 19. Where we left off, Jessica Drew had also made an attempt at retrieving the file that exists on her from Wilson Fisk, but Fisk informed her that he's already sent someone to turn her life upside down. Someone that has a vested interest in destroying her life. And, in fact, once almost succeeded. The Skrull Queen Varank. With it being stated that she was simply kept in Ravencroft the entire time, not actually killed. But the last issue ended with Varank showing up to pick up Spider-Woman's son, Jerry, who's being watched by Night Nurse. Jerry's not too happy about this, but Night Nurse makes a point of asking what happened to why we were cast. And Jessica says she got better, or Varank says she got better. It must have been because of Night Nurse's tender care. And Varank backhands Night Nurse and explains that she should be grateful that Fisk only wants wants the child and not her. But the real Jessica shows up, and her and Varank duke it out. Varank not changing forms, so. But Jess goes after the armored Thunderbolts truck. During everything, Iron Man shows up, but it's actually Varank, and yeah. But Jess says that she figured out because the real Iron Man would have insulted her immediately. But we get a lot of there's a lot of Varank just kind of really, really talking trash about how horrible, about, Jess, and how, she actually kind of, and that apparently she wishes she had chosen someone else to take the form of, because, yeah. However, Jerry's not in the back of the truck, because he's wall crawling on the roof, and used a venom blast on the driver, and basically knocked the truck onto a garbage scow. So, but Spider-Man shows up and just shoots him with a venom blast just to be sure. Ben says, "Not everyone's a Skrull. Not everyone's a Skrull. Not everyone's a Skrull all the time." But she goes to save her kid, and finds Jerry in the arms of Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. But another Captain Marvel shows up. It's an argument, and when it all comes down to it, Jess instructs Jerry to zap bad Auntie Carol, and the one who wasn't holding her zapped, and so Jess tells Carol to get Jerry out of there, and proceeds to just beat the holy hell out of Varank, who takes on various forms. Ronan, Clint, that Jess made him watch his wife die, and he'll never forgive her for that. And she simply says that deep down, Clint probably never has forgiven her. But she did plenty of things to piss Clint off on her own. Then she takes the form of Jerry, to which Jess says that it's harder to punch her son's face than Clint's, and Clint's face is very punchable. Then she takes the form of Lindsay, and then Jess basically grabs Varank by the head, and grabs Varank's head and hits him with a venom blast. Carol asks what they're going to do, and Jess mentions that the river's already full of garbage. A little more won't hurt. They put her in an old refrigerator, keep her out of the way till all the Fisk stuff's sorted out, which Carol agrees with. It's not like she can go more villainously insane, swearing vengeance on Jess after all. But Jess then goes to visit Lindsay in the hospital, but it appears a sniper has her in sights, and but the sniper explains that hey, I got her, I can take the shot right now, but the sniper's boss, explains that it would be unsporting to engage right now, as Jess has had a busy day. And who is it hired the sniper? The anti-Iraq 9. Though I'm only counting at least no more than 6 people involved. Jess's brother, I guess the last remaining clone, Jess's mother, Octavia Vermis, and the sword twins from a few issues back. I can't remember their names, sadly. And that is where the issue ends. So it looks like we got... Aw. Jess is finally getting her own rogues gallery. That's sweet. It only took her, what, 50 years? Though, to be fair, yeah, I mean... Every superhero should have their own set villains. And, well, when the best they could do for a good, like, gut-punch villain for Spider-Woman was basically say, oh, yeah, Norman Osborn didn't really kill Varang. That, yeah, it's kind of, oh, yeah, we really need to do something, don't we? Anyway, moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Nocterra, number 7. Where we left off in Nocterra, in the actual series, well... Beta McCrae, granddaughter of Gus McCrae, joined the Sundog convoy, taking the call sign Piper. We get a rundown of who's who in the convoy. Val is, of course, Sundog. B. Bellwether is their big gun, the light cans on the roof of her rig, go up to 7,000 lumens, but it kills her battery for a few minutes. Then you've got Slab, whose face was burned almost completely off by Blacktop Bill. His shot, Neffel, is said to be one of the best hunters on the roads. Then you've got their cook, Callie. Steno's his shot, and the resident ecologist. And finally, you've got Emery, Val's little brother, their tinkerer, and the only person ever to be cured of shade infection. But they catch a critter, a shade critter, it's Ratchasm. Basically, a cat shade mated with a rat shade. And there's a little bit of possum got in there too. But they're heading to an outpost 31, called the Drive-In. It's filled with screens, reels, but no one's there. No one's there to meet them. Livestock still alive, so it's not a shade attack. Livestock, the shades would have destroyed the livestock. They find a survivor. It was a human shade attack, or smudges, as Piper calls them. They're getting ready to go, but some megas have popped up on the scene, and so the convoy runs. They're not going to find any information on where Gus had been, which might lead them to the city of Eos, a place where, potentially speaking, light might actually still, or likely be brought back. Blacktop Bill is communing with some creatures in the dark, but his connection has burned up the power of the bus he's pulled to the side, and he slaughters the people aboard. But then he's met by some others like him, whom he promptly kills. He didn't honor a contract, after all. As the convoy is trying to get away from the Megas, however, Slab and Neffel's rig is picked up by them. Bellwether uses her light cannons to take down the shade, and the rig is dropped into the river. Slab and Neffel pop up to the surface, but before they can be saved, what looks to be a whale shade eats them. And so they're going to grab the rig and figure out what to do from there. But Val says there's only one person left who might know where Eos is, and yeah, it's Blacktop Bill, who's taken the heads of the three hunters that were coming after him, and impaled them on, and mounted them on his truck. And he's also tied their headless bodies to the hood. And that is where the issue ends. It's good to have Nocterra back. I really enjoy this book, and I guess I mean I don't if they feel they need if Steiner and Daniels feel they have to take a few months off after every 6 issues. I get it. It kind of sucks, but hey, it's their book. They can do what they want, right? Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.